Hey, good evening, everybody. We're getting ready for the Meteorology Lab broadcast, and as you can see, I don't quite have the time-lapse running yet, so you're going to see me put this together. So we're just kind of setting up the animation and just rearranging the clips here. Let me get some of this other stuff set up, and then we'll be rolling. I wonder if anybody saw that aurora last night. I did not see anything here. But let's see here. Let me grab the other clip and throw it in there. And we'll be ready to do our show here. So this is the process I go through every evening. Going through, setting up the charts, combing through emails to see what kind of weather's been going on, and putting together this time-lapse animation. Okay, so we need to set the date here. It is the 17th, and that is today. And then we set the weather, and we've just got a little bit of overcast out there, so I'm going to go scattered 050, and the current temperature is 85. Okay. Almost ready to go here. Okay, so we're going to render that. That'll take just a few seconds. Anyway, let me take a look at the chat, see what we got going on. Sue M says, good evening. No aurora was visible. Maybe too many trees on the horizon or too cloudy. David Holcomb made it again to a live event. Happy to be back. Good to have you here. Justin Pulliam is here, and Eddie W. David says, too smoky in Calgary to see it. Wow, smoke really obscuring things. And that's been a problem over the past week. There's been, I guess, wildfires from the northern territories up there. Burl H joining us, and Jumping Flash. We've got Ryan Toomies. And let's see here. We're just waiting for the rendering to finish. We're up to 52%. And I forgot the music, but I can do that manually. Let me get that set up here. Get a song queued up. So running just a little bit behind tonight. Let's see here. Bossa Nova. Yeah, we'll give that a shot. All right, 89%. I think we're about almost ready. Okay, so we're good to go. Okay, stand by. Hey, good evening. We're back again. Welcome to the webcast. Sorry, there's probably a little feedback coming through. Let me turn down the speakers. There's a little bit of cumulus growing earlier, but we've got dry air aloft, and you can see they just do not get going. So nothing like what we had over the weekend, but definitely a little bit of instability. So let's head to the charts and see what's going on. And let me switch to the browser. Okay, across Texas, the patterns we've got about the same as what we had yesterday. The synoptic scale shows southerly flow, a little bit more upslope over West Texas. You can see more of an easterly component in that area. But it's kind of broken up at the mesoscale by outflow boundaries, and we've had this old boundary over the past 3 or 4 days running from Mississippi to central Texas, and it's been stationary, and that's been a source of convection today. Also a little bit of shower activity in the south, mostly in southern Georgia and westward along that boundary. Pacific Northwest, getting a bit of a cold front sweeping through. And we can, of course, find that using theta. It is a little bit tricky because it's interrupted kind of by oceanic features and effects up in the mountains, but if you kind of pay attention to the patterns, we could probably drop a boundary right through there. And you can definitely see that thermal gradient through northern Oregon and western Montana. Just a slight risk up there north of St. Cloud, central Minnesota there. And we've got a marginal area for the, I guess that would be Blythe, up to Laughlin. Got a monsoon there, and you can see wind reports. Damaging winds today, southwest of Salt Lake City, that's going to be in the Dugway Proving Grounds area, and around Safford. But we've got dawn out there in the Atlantic. That just kind of sprung right up there. SPC is calling 45 mile-an-hour winds sustained. Central pressure 1009. That's kind of high. And that's moving west-northwest. There's that track there, and actually more westerly, and that's going to take it basically over Trinidad and kind of grazing the Venezuelan coast right there. And there's what the models are going for as far as intensity, gradually ramping that up to a Cat 1 storm, some of them keeping it kind of weak in the tropical storm regime, others a little bit higher. The ones going for higher intensity, that looks like the statistical models, the Clipper ship, that's going to be a statistical model. So I have a little less confidence in that. Another statistical model. The dynamical model is going for things a little bit weaker. Wind radii consensus, I'm not sure what that is. And then we've got coamps. Yeah, so more, the statistical model's going for more of a higher intensity. And as far as the track, I've got that loaded up in Google Earth. Pretty good grouping of those lines just north of Venezuela. The outliers are the statistical models. There's Clipper 5 right there. There's another Clipper, and these TCLP symbols and TABD, you're probably wondering what those are. You've probably seen them around, like TABD. I have a little reference document. You're welcome to freeze frame that on the replay, or if you want to download it, I've got that online. Okay, see, there's TABD. Deep Layer Trajectory Beta Model Track Forecast. If you want to download this, I've got it set up on Pastebin. And there's the link right there up at the top. So it's going to be pastebin.com/capital B, capital G, X, capital F, B, capital T, V, capital X. And if you missed that, you can just watch the replay. We're about 10 minutes in, so that's about where it'll be, and that will give you all the different models. You can check that out. Okay, and then, yeah, let me show you what's up next. The Ryan Toomey's tropical desk. Let me see if I can, yeah, he's been pretty good about sending me some updates about what's been going on in the tropics. He says Tropical Storm Dawn appears to be on the horizon, showing itself in between the Sahara dust layers of the Atlantic Basin. He says, fortunately for us, the tropical storm moving at a fast clip 20 to 22 miles an hour westbound in the southernmost part of the Atlantic Basin. The southernmost part of the Lesser Antilles will face the brunt of the storm about the same time as the upper wind shear from the southwest tears it apart. It's very important to watch the ingredients at play so you know what to look for way ahead of time. Pay attention to conditions on the water vapor loop and polar orbiter satellite. And Ryan says also this is exactly what he expects as time moves along. We'll lose the protections we have in place after August. The steering currents will keep blowing hard across the Atlantic with less dust and more moisture as the season moves along. The upper level southwesterly shearing winds will subside to the lower parts of the Caribbean Sea closer to Latin and South America. Okay, so that's the update there from Ryan, and I appreciate the information. And back to the charts we go. The large-scale picture showing very low heights in the polar regions. The Canadian High Arctic, very deep low, and that's very unusual for this time of year. So that means we have a stronger than normal jet stream across northern Canada right there. And we roll that forward to today. Yeah, and there it is. We've got the trough moving into the Canadian prairies. And that's been displacing the ridge, which is now over Quebec. So things warming up in the northeast U.S. Montreal, probably pretty warm there also. And now you can see we've got southwesterly jet stream winds in the lower 48. There's a 250 millibar chart right there, and you can see the jet pretty much from Medford up to northeastern Montana and up to Winnipeg, ridging across the central U.S. right here. And then we've got a trough sinking southward into the Mississippi and Louisiana area. But not a whole lot of convection with that. I mean, there is some, but I think we've kind of dried out a little bit. 200 millibar chart showing that pretty well right there, center of the high in southern Nebraska. And there's our trough right there over the eastern United States. 700 millibar chart showing a little bit of that capping returning. There's the 10 Celsius line all the way to Minneapolis and up to Lake Superior. Then 15 over Denver. So that's a lot of subsidence, warm air from the interior, and that's keeping things pretty well suppressed over the central United States. All right, let's take a look at the satellite. There's the convection in Texas along that old boundary. So these are just kind of eating up the moisture that's available, and we see one little boundary moving northward around Abilene, Hillsboro, out to Longview, and not much convection with that. The frontal convection up in the northern U.S. a little bit different. We've got the benefit of dynamic lift. That's along the leading edge of the front. Most of the subsidence has been in this region, but we did manage to get a few storms breaking out there in Nebraska. There they are, and you can see the outflow. Kind of an elliptical shape like that. And then Arizona has also been very active. We got the southwest monsoon pretty much in full gear, and some very big storms there near Kingman. Also a few storms there, just northeast of Phoenix, and also there in the Tucson area. Looking out in the tropics, there's dawn right there north of Brazil. I think that's it right there. We can overlay the dust product. That's going to be the aerosol optical depth. Let's bring that up. And yeah, you can see right there a very good plume of dust. And we do have to be kind of careful with the satellite data because you can see the sun glint. So that kind of interferes, and they kind of show up as swaths from northwest to southeast. So you got to be kind of careful, but this aerosol optical depth will show the dust. Pretty good plume coming off the coast of Africa right there. And Ryan has mentioned that where the dust is, there's a lot of suppression of hurricanes. Not too much out in the Caribbean right now. Let's check out the dust out in western Canada. We'll overlay that product, and the dust has made it all the way down into Washington State. Almost to Washington State. Calgary is right there, so yeah, they're right in the thick of that dust, and that extends all the way to Cranbrook and almost to Vancouver right there. So quite a bit of that. So I'm going to remove that aerosol optical depth, and there it is. There's that. Why am I calling that dust? That's smoke from those fires. So yeah, there it is right there in southern Saskatchewan. The model data. We can see a pretty good cold front coming out of Canada. There's the cold air mass right there in the Northwest Territories spreading southward. Very good thermal gradient in central Canada. And the leading edge from Hudson Bay down to the Dakotas, down to Montana, and down to California. So that's colder air working its way gradually eastward and modifying due to the intense heating there, so making very slow progress into the central U.S. And you can also see the synoptic scale high. There's the Bermuda high off the east coast right there, little nose of that extending into the southeast U.S. So we've got a very gentle southerly flow coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, bringing a bit of moisture into the southern U.S. We'll take a look at a sounding for Fort Worth. It's been pretty quiet here. And you can see the capping there. There's a very strong warm layer at about 15,000 feet on up to 25,000 feet. So even if we did get storms, they would have to overcome this subsidence layer, and you can see it's pretty dry too. Very high relative humidity, and we can tell that because of the distance between the moisture line and the temperature line. So very low relative humidity. Down below we do find that tropical air, and let's try lifting a parcel based on 65 over 88. There's our LCL right there, so a little bit of warm air, about 6,000 to 8,000 feet, kind of capping things a bit. And then it would have to overcome the southern cap in the mid-levels. So not a whole lot of instability. Then we'll take a look at things up north at Topeka. They're going to be closer to that ridging. And there we see a lot of dry air, very low relative humidities off the surface. So once the heating hits, things warm up and we mix that moisture out. It goes up into the free atmosphere, and we end up changing this moisture to something like this. So dew points will probably be pretty low later on during the evening. So let's see what kind of changes we've had. They managed to hang on to a little moisture there. So maybe some southerly flow bringing up a bit of moisture right there, but still plenty of dry air in the mid-levels. So I think we're about ready to head into the forecast, just not much going on. So let's get this set up here, and let me take a look at the chat. A lot of chat there, so I'm not going to be able to catch all this, but let's see here. Dow and Egan, tsunami warning after 7.8 earthquake off of Russia. Yeah, let's take a look at that. USGS earthquake maps. Oh, wrong site. Clicked on an ad. Okay, so that's going to be off the coast of Kamchatka near Shemya. Got a U.S. Air Force base there, and I wonder if that did any damage there. Let me take a quick look outside here, because I'm going to read through the chat, and you all need something to look at. So let me bring up the outside view. Okay, we're coming up here on the outside webcam. Kind of a slow process there. Okay, good. Okay, so looking at chat here. Carl Berghoff had fog last night, so he was unable to see any auroras. Tonight he's watching the storm complex racing through northwest Wisconsin. Hiker has got storm strongs in Tucson. Monsoon is there for good, finally. Had a tornado warning northwest of Tucson the other day. Northwest of Tucson, that's going to be up along Interstate 10 there. David Moore didn't get the webcast notification. Don't know what the cause of that was. Chilly day in the Metroplex, dropped to 95 with a 72 dew point. August is right around the corner. Yeah, just a week or two from now. He says keep a watch on NHC updates every 12 hours for revised data. Sue M. loves being an inland girl. Andrew Hotchkiss asks, what's your favorite place to get free satellite imagery? And I would have to say it's that site that we use, NASA Marshall Space Flight Center, weather.msfc.nasa.gov. So some good products there. And also College of DuPage. Very good animation scrubbing tool there. So check that out also. Justin Pulliam also using this College of DuPage viewer. 9 died in flash flooding in Arizona from Dow and Egan there. Ryan's got 8 screens in his office to watch flight data. Carl Berghoff picking up the outflow boundary on the storms moving through Wisconsin. His camera is not there yet. Ryan's iPad and Apple laptop in his mobile command. Tim has seen my office setup. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Okay, so let's head into the forecast. First thing we're going to look at is the mesoscale models. I'm getting a low video indication. I wonder what the cause of that might be. Yeah, let me know if you guys are seeing any problems. I'm seeing the viewer count going down just a little bit, so. Okay, so doing the forecast, let's see here, get my preview window up. Okay, starting out, we've got high pressure across Kansas. 200 millibar jet up across Manitoba. And moving forward, pretty much high pressure remaining in place across Kansas. Very little change, building the ridge back up in the northern plains by later Thursday and Friday. Quiet weekend across the southern U.S. We can see a high pressure ridge centered now in Arkansas. So a little bit of advection of that ridge. A little bit of troughing coming into Utah on Monday, so maybe an increase in thunderstorm activity in the central Rockies. Then the ridge builds back in, and there goes the trough on its way out around midweek into the Midwest. Really building that ridge up. High pressure also rebuilds in the Four Corners area, so that may shut down a little bit of the precip. And really building that high there by the 29th of July. Out on the East Coast, we do see a little bit of a trough moving southeastward around the 29th, and you can see that that shears off. And we get a little bit of a low there over the central Appalachians. So we'll have to keep an eye on that for an increase in precipitation in the southeast around August 1st and August 2nd. And I don't think I see anything tropical coming onto the coast. Let me take a look. Actually, I'm going to have to look at the surface charts for that. Let's run through the charts real quickly. Southerly gradient and cyclogenesis in Nebraska. That's that little front coming down. So southerly gradient, most of the storms are going to be in Florida. Kind of a backdoor front there in the Midwest. Tropical area is kind of quiet, just storms there in Florida, Texas, and the south looking pretty quiet. And then we get a bit of a frontal boundary move southward on the 24th on Monday. That's going to be after the weekend. So chances of rain going up for Oklahoma and the Panhandles. Bermuda high there continuing to bring some moisture northward. So it looks like kind of a rainy week there for Oklahoma around the 25th, 26th, and 27th there. Nothing coming up into the south from that tropical storm there. So I think that Bermuda high is pretty much acting as a big force field, keeping things pretty far south. Pretty good migratory high coming through around the 29th. You see that right there. 1022 millibar high moving southeast across the Great Lakes. There it goes. Very strong high, so a little bit of a backdoor front again. Maybe something like that. And then that's out of the picture by the 1st and 2nd, and we're back to another boring pattern. Then we'll take a quick look at the tropics with the streamlines. Got my charts kind of messed up here. Sorry about that. There we go. I was wondering why I had that live overlay. Okay, so let's see. Starting out on the tropics, we've got Dawn going to be grazing the Venezuelan coast right here, and let's see what happens. You can see the broad trade wind belt through here, south of the Bermuda High. So moving forward into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm just not seeing any evidence of Dawn at this point. I just don't see it showing up here in the data at all. So things are pretty quiet there. Probably what we got is a very strong Bermuda high building in and keeping things pretty shut down. And I'm looking for easterly waves moving through the flow, probably 1 here on the 26th, 27th off Cuba. Looks like that'll make it to Texas. You see it moving through here. And that'll come into Texas around the 28th and 29th. Probably increased chances of rain there along the coast. Other than that, it looks pretty quiet in the tropics, so that's about all I got there. So not much to really talk about, and we'll just take one last look at the chat. Ryan says he's got clear video. Everybody's saying things are okay. Carl says great quality, and that's with AWIPS and GR level X polling data. Thumbs up, and I do appreciate that. Flights delayed about 2 hours in the Northeast. New York, Connecticut got bad weather there today. Ryan says domino effect delayed flights until 3 a.m. Sue M. wishes someplace had images of the aurora. Live webcam, Churchill, Manitoba had rain. Would like to see it. And Ryan says Tropical Storm Dawn torn apart from the shearing winds aloft near Venezuela. The aurora display is going to be pretty much over at this point. We'll take one last look at that. That was a phenomenon that happened last night. Let's check out the forecast here, and I think we've seen the KP index drop back down to 2, so we're loading up that frame here. But you can see starting out here this morning, we had 6 earlier today. There's the current product, so we're looking at KP index of 4. So that's going to bring it back up into Canada. Not much to see here in the U.S. Overnight tonight, 3. Yeah, pretty much 3 all night. So you're going to be mostly limited to the Great Lakes and maybe the Dakotas northward. Not much to see in the U.S. itself. And then the rest of the period tomorrow night, KP of 3 to 2. And then the following night, 3 to 2, so we're back down to normal levels. Okay, and that's about all I got for tonight. I appreciate you watching the webcast. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to go into the comments and take care of that tonight and say hello to everybody. And please tell everybody about the webcast, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a good evening. Sorry, I got to get the music queued up.